All right, hey, what's up, everybody? So I want to give you guys an encouraging video. I was asking the Lord today what He wanted me to share with you guys, and the word that He gave me was that He is everywhere. And I began to pray into that, and I began to ask the Lord what that means. And this is the word that I have for you, and I hope it encourages you. A lot of us, when we hear God is everywhere, that I am everywhere, you think, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, of course, He's everywhere. But you don't really understand. A lot of people don't really understand what that really means in the sense of salvation, in terms of ministry, in terms of His redemptive story. And what you have to know at the highest level is that the Bible, the human history, the whole story of it, is that God wants to draw all men unto Him. And I'm referring to Christ saying that when He says that I be lifted up from the earth, that I would draw all men unto me with salvation. But the whole story of God having His people come to Him to fixate on Him and to bridge that gap again through Christ for what was fallen in terms of the sin of Adam and Eve, is that He wants people to come to Him. And so that's why we have this heaven and hell, and that's why we have this process of being reconciled to our Father. And so the whole story and whole thing is for God to come to Him. And so the way that God does that isn't always the way that you think it is in the 21st century. American Christianity, Christianity in modern day society, first world countries, they all think, oh yeah, it's got to be Sunday service and church, and you have to go through this process. You may even have to go to a retreat or a Bible study and like a camp, and then you have to go to a service where some preacher is telling you to come to the altar, and then you got to say the sinner's prayer, and then you got to go through this process of being cleansed, and then you got to read the Bible straight through once, and then you got to pray every morning 30 minutes, and boom, boom, boom. They have this cookie cutter approach to Christianity for you to experience, to grow, and to know God. And this is the way. This is the best way. And I'm not mocking it in the sense that isn't a good way. It could be a wise way. It could be one way for which God is without maybe risk, with wisdom in some sense, without exposing somebody to some weird area for them to come to Christ, right? But the problem here is that a lot of people think that's the only way. This is the one way, my way or the highway. And they don't see the fact that God is using all areas, all realms and industries, all geographies, all people groups to draw all men unto Him. And so I'm not justifying, again, this kumbaya approach, this one world religion, all these other things. I'm not saying those things. Of course, there are not good, heretical, bad things that are going on in the world. But what I'm saying is that He's redeeming people that are Native Americans that never knew God. He's redeeming some Islam people that had a choice for which God spoke to them, and they had a choice to turn to Him. And wherever you are, whether you are in the drug industry, in the porn industry, in the whatever industry that we believe right now as, oh, that's wicked and evil, He's taking some of those experiences and those testimonies and bringing people to Him. And again, I'm not encouraging people, oh, you got to go hit rock bottom, and for you to experience God, you got to go, through this tough time. I'm not saying those things. What I'm saying is that God has allowed somebody to go through a season, maybe of being rock bottom or being in a dark place, only for them to have a testimony that shows that, okay, truly God is the only way. Christ is the only way. And so a lot of us right now, we're looking at not only salvation and the evangelizing, but also in the ministry realm. People think, oh no, if you want to get into ministry, the only way is you gotta, sell all your possessions. You gotta be poor. You can't have money, and you gotta make sure you're going to Bible college, and you gotta make sure that you're in church, and you gotta have a Bible study every Friday, and you gotta make sure, and there's this formula people think is the best way for Christianity. But what I'm saying is that God is using lots of people, and as long as they're not sinning in the actual act itself, there are people that are posting, and people are hounding people. Hey, that's not a Christian thing to do. You shouldn't be posting and causing division. You shouldn't be posting about politics. You shouldn't be posting about social justice. You shouldn't be posting about those things. You're such a bad Christian. And their mentality of this cookie cutter approach, this, and they misuse the word unity. Oh no, it's about kumbaya and unity and all this stuff, but they don't see it from the perspective of how God is using certain people. Paul even, a lot of people, if you saw Paul today, you'd be so angry at him. The way he rebukes people, the way he talks to all these people, all his letters, everything he's called out is hitting your flesh and all these different things. And people are like, that's not, if you saw him, you'd be like, that's not the Christian thing to do. You're not a Christian. You're not supposed to do it that way. And so what I'm saying here is that God is working everywhere. He's working in this industry. He's working in business. He's working in politics. He's working in, some industries where it's utterly void of Christians and God. And he's probably turning those people, hopefully, into, if they choose to, into Christians. And so those people are experiencing things that are being worked in miraculous ways. And what God's doing in this time, in this season even, is that he's making sure, he's humbling a lot of people. He's allowing people to see that thought they were all goody two-shoes, they had their nose up high, they're seeing, oh wow, God is raising up people, using people, and bringing people to Christ from these desert and absent industries where they thought that it was hopeless, that it was something that didn't make sense. So you're going to see a lot of these people just come out of the woodwork, just come out of nowhere, stepping up. And again, I'm not saying that you should be dancing in that. You got to be in the world, but not of the world, right? So you're not there entertaining the sin yourself. You're not there to do the wickedness and act in that way in and of itself. And of course, people have their own journey. You could be stumbled by something. Maybe you're strong enough to go in something or whatever it is. But the point is that God is working. God is working everywhere. God is using a lot of different things. And I'm not encouraging, again, that everyone should go out and just start doing whatever and saying, oh yeah, God is working in me, like I can do whatever I want. It's not that. If God is calling you somewhere, then he's doing that. But for so many of us, we have this religious mentality. We have this mentality of, nope, it's got to be this way, A, B, C, D, and I can only see God working if if you're only going to be educated if you just go to seminary and you get this degree in this XYZ, and you're only going to know about worship if you go to this worship camp, and then you can learn about the proper chord structures for this and that. The only way you can learn about XYZ is if you do this. And that's not true. God is using a lot of different things, a lot of different areas. And again, there's a unification in terms of thought, in terms of viewpoints, how you see God, theology, if you want to call it, application, the current events and current times, and how to understand and interpret times, things like that. There's ways that people should be hopefully moving in that direction. But all that to say is that you can't be boxing God in. A lot of us, we're boxing God in, and God is saying, I'm not to be boxed in. I'm not to be a God who is limited by your timeline, by your process, by what worked for you and what has been successful for you in the past, but that he's doing new things. He's working in all areas. And again, I'm not saying it's inconsistent with the Bible. I'm not saying that it goes against what the Bible says. It's just that when God works, he works in wondrous, miraculous, mysterious ways that you can never fathom until you get to heaven and you ask and you can see it from his perspective when all is said and done. So all that to say, guys, again, we have to be open-minded in the sense that, okay, I humble myself to Lord in how you're going to work in my life, someone else's life. I'm not to judge. I'm not to look over and yell at somebody to say, hey, stay in, do it this way. You're not supposed to do it that way. And God is not working in your life. He's not working in your posts. He's not working in your discussions. And he's not working in your Twitter tweets and blah, blah, blah. But instead, that God is working. He's absolutely working in all areas. And he's there. He's everywhere. It may not necessarily yield the fruit that you think it is. It may not even yield any fruit for a time, for a short time. But eventually, maybe the fruit is less sparse or more sparse. Maybe the fruit is more abundant in areas like the church, in areas like a retreat, in an area like a revival, of course. But other areas, he's absolutely working, and he's not absent. He doesn't sit there and not know what's going on in the drug industry, in the trafficking industry, in the pornography industry, in XYZ industry, in the satanic rituals that people do that are actually demon worshipers. Those things, they're all in the view of God, and he's absolutely working. It's just that he's patient. He knows when to act, when to say things, when to do things, and when people are going to turn. And so you may not see it as fruitful as maybe going to a Bible conference, but He does and He is working. So I just want to encourage you guys with that. God bless you guys, and I'll talk to you guys very soon.